Hi everyone, my name is Charlie and today I have my Victober TBR. Victober is a month-long event run by Katie of Books and Things, Kate Howe and Lucy the Reader, and is all about celebrating Victorian literature. I have participated for the last few years and some years have been spectacular fails and some years, well, I actually read some Victorian literature. Before we begin, last year, during the month of September, I read David Copperfield and annotated that book like I had never annotated a book since school, but even then, completely differently. And in September, I wished to do that with Bleak House, also by Charles Dickens, and I read the first day's worth of pages and never progressed any further, just because I wasn't in the mood. And I am hoping to get Bleak House read during Victober. Aside from any of the prompts that I'm about to read and the challenges that these three booktubers have come up with, this is the one book that I want to get read in Victober. I have this strange thing where I've been reading one Dickens book every October rather than just going through all of the books that I have on my shelves. But then that is what happens when it comes to Victorian literature. I often end up waiting until the autumnal months to read these books. There's just something about Victober that has constantly got this mood in my head as the only time to read Victorian literature is towards the end of the year. So in terms of Bleak House, I have no idea what it's about except for a familial case running through the courts, and I just reached a point where there was a girl talking about a doll. And that is the last I remember, but I really do want to get that read. Firstly, we have Kate's challenge, which is read a Victorian sensation novel. For this, I have mostly Wilkie Collins books. If I'm being honest, I just purchased Armadale a few months ago. I say that I stole it from a rag bag, alongside Poor Miss Finch, also by Wilkie Collins, and available on Audible for me to listen to. I purchased them are The Woman in White and The Moonstone, so I'm going to read or listen to any one of them. I read The Law and the Lady last year by Wilkie Collins, and prior to that I had read The Haunted Hotel. The Haunted Hotel I didn't like, and The Law and the Lady I thought that was fantastic, so it'll be interesting to see how I get on with some of the more famous works. 2, we have Katie's challenge. Read a Victorian book set in the countryside and or city. And for this, I'm actually going back and reading, well, I'm listening to the audiobook of Far From the Madding Crowd, which I originally read way back when I was a pupil at during sixth form. And the only reason I read it is because my dad told me that one of the adaptations had been filmed at a farm owned by a farmer that he knows. And I really enjoyed it back then, and I just want to revisit it. 3, which is Lucy's challenge, read a Victorian book with a female main character. I did consider going back and finishing Sylvia's Lovers. This was the book that followed me throughout Victober last year. I am at page 241 of 440. I can remember everything that happened in this book, and I can't believe it's been over a year. Well, it's not over a year, it's been 10 months since I tried picking this book up. I put it aside because when there were times when I was really enjoying it and there were times when it was getting on my nerves. So I have this, and I suppose that if you counted Bathsheba Everdeen from Far From the Madding Crowd, that could count. I also want to listen to North and South by Elizabeth Gaskell because I have that. Then we have the group challenge to read a popular Victorian book you haven't read yet. So I suppose I could use Bleak House for this. However, I also have Dr. Thorne and Framley Parsonage by Anthony Trollope. 2 more books that I want to read. And this is because at the end of Victober last year, I got the opportunity to purchase all 47 of the Folio Society copies of Anthony Trollope's entire works. And Since the end of October last year, I have read one of those, and that was Barchester Towers, the second book in the Barchester series. And I said how I thought about reading one a month, starting with the shorter ones and reading them, and I haven't touched them. And so I thought, let's try and get through these books. I'll probably read the folio editions, although I do like the covers on these. This is one of the reasons why I couldn't get rid of them. I just really appreciated the way that these ones have been made. And I do enjoy Anthony Trollope when I'm reading his works. I also have, and I showed this last year, the Barchester Chronicles, which is all of the radio plays that were on Radio 4 in the 90s, and I still haven't listened to any of them. So I'm failing as a Victober booktuber, a Victorian reader. And then we have the bonus challenge, which is read aloud a section of a Victorian work or have it read aloud to you. Since I'm reading a lot of audiobooks, that one's already covered. I do also have some more books that I'd like to get to. I have The Picture of Dorian Gray, which I purchased last year, and I'd like to read this. I'd like this to be the year that I finally read Dracula, although I said that about last year, and I've said it every year since 2013, when I originally got my copy from the Whitby Bookshop. And last year, I acquired Wonderful Adventures of Mrs. Seacole in Many Lands by Mary Seacole, and I didn't read this then, and I would like to try and get this read now, for it is delightfully short at 205 pages, although I won't lie, the size of the print does terrify me somewhat. Should I have mentioned what these books were about? That might have been a good idea, mightn't it? But the fact of the matter is that when it comes to Victorian literature, I actually don't have much of an idea what it's about. The reason being that I tend to avoid the blurbs because the blurbs can have spoilers. You can't read the introductions because the introductions can have spoilers. But I know that with Sylvia's Lovers, which I was reading last year, basically you have this character of Sylvia, and then she has these lovers. And then we have Dr. Thorne, which... The Squire of Greshambury has fallen on hard times, and it is incumbent on his son Frank to make a good marriage. But Frank loves the doctor's niece, Mary Thorne, a girl with no money and mysterious parentage. He faces a terrible dilemma. Should he save the estate or marry the girl he loves? Mary, too, has to battle her feelings, knowing that marrying Frank would ruin his family and fly in the face of his mother's opposition. Her pride is matched by that of her uncle Dr. Thorne, who has to decide whether to reveal a secret that would resolve Frank's difficulty or to uphold the innate merits of his own family heritage. That's Dr. Thorne. And then Framley Parsonage. The Reverend Mark Roberts makes a mistake. Drawn into a social set at odds with his clerical responsibilities, he guarantees the debts of an unscrupulous member of Parliament. He stands to lose his reputation, and his family, future and home are all in peril. His patroness, the proud and demanding Lady Lufton, is offended, and the romantic hopes of Mark's sister Lucy, courted by Lady Lufton's son, are in jeopardy. Pride and ambition are set against love and integrity in a novel that has remained one of Trollope's most popular stories. This is strange because both these books seem to have somewhat similar ideas behind them. And when I think about the Trollope books that I have read, The Warden and Barchester Towers, I don't know that I've seen that sort of theme mentioned. But what I do like about them is that they all set in a similar place. And it's almost like a Woman's Weekly serial or a My Weekly serial, something from the People's Friends, quite parochial and all about people living in one setting. I would say that if you're a fan of the radio soap The Archers, then you would probably enjoy Trollope's Barchester Chronicles. I did want to read The Claverings a few months ago, and should I have time, I might get to that. I don't know. I don't know what time is going to be like, because last Victober I took 2 weeks off work because I had that there to do so. And this year I have overtime for 2 weeks, and when I have overtime I don't tend to read. Whilst I might get a bit of time off towards the end of the month, I don't want to make any promises. But I would like to finish Sylvia's Lovers and read more Gaskell, because I do enjoy Gaskell when I read her work. Yeah, another thing that I would like to do in terms of Victober is watch some adaptations and that sort of thing. They did watch Jane Eyre last year, but I think the only read-along happening that I know about is Wuthering Heights, and we know how I feel about that. I look forward to seeing what happens Victober-wise this month. I look forward to seeing any sort of compilation videos that may come our way, any sort of group reads and that, seeing what people are getting up to. That'll be fun. Will you be joining in Victober? If you have a TBR and I haven't seen it, do feel free to tell me about it and I'll go and give it a watch. If you've read any of these books and think that I should prioritise them over others, then let me know that as well. Because, let's admit, I have no idea what I'm doing. I hope that you got something out of this video, even if it was sheer boredom. We all love a list. And until next time, that is all.